we have here is someone who's been in prison for 18 years, a mother who's lost 4 of her children in the most harrowing of ways. How she is surviving, if indeed she's innocent, is extraordinary. You spoke to her last night. How is she?
Australia's most hated woman, Kathleen Folbigg, was an ordinary individual living in New South Wales, Australia. She was a working housewife, mother of 4 babies, and wife of a loving husband, Craig Folbigg. It was shocking for the Australian community to know that a mother could intentionally harm her own children and continue to live with freedom without any remorse. Kathleen had a very rough childhood. She witnessed her father murdering her mother when she was only 18 months old. Later in her life, she was sent to foster homes where she found it very difficult to settle down. She was always emotionally disrupted and was known as a very stubborn child. Kathleen ran away from her foster home when she was 15 years old. She met Craig at a bar where she was working. The couple fell in love instantly and later got married. The pair welcomed 4 babies into the world, but all of them died in the course of 10 years. It was reported that Kathleen was not at all like a conventional mother. She preferred social gatherings more than caring for her children. At that point, Kathleen gave up her job to stay at home with her children. Her husband Craig became the sole breadwinner of the family, which affected the family financially. In October 2003, Justice Barr of New South Wales Supreme Court sentenced Kathleen Folbigg to 70 years of prison for the manslaughter of her newborn Caleb and the murder of her 3 children, Patrick, Sarah, and Laura. The sentence was partially accumulated with a total imprisonment of 40 years and a non-parole period of 30 years. This case has kept everyone in shock to this date, as no one can believe that a mother can commit such a brutal felony with her own kids. Caleb Gibson Folbigg was born February 1, 1989. Just 19 days later, he was found dead in his cot due to sudden infant death syndrome. Patrick Allen Folbigg was born June 3, 1990. He died 9 months after he was born to an epileptic fit. Kathleen's 3rd child, Sarah Folbigg, was born on October 14, 1992. But she too died just 10 months after her birth, contributing to the sudden infant death syndrome. Laura Elizabeth died at the age of 18 months. This death raised suspicions as she was the Folbigg's oldest child to survive that much. Laura's death was seen as natural until Laura's death in 1999. Investigations began as this was considered as a very strange case. Pathologists reported after a brief autopsy of the dead bodies that all Kathleen's children were deliberately suffocated. The doctors further stated that Laura was much too old for her age to have died because of infant death syndrome. The suspicion spread like wildfire, causing Kathleen to come under a heavy storm of accusations, but she never confessed to any of the murders. Neither was there strong positive evidence regarding the children's death. The 2-year investigation trial began, and Kathleen was investigated day in and day out, yet still, nothing was confirmed. The jury first believed that it could be a case of natural death, but they suddenly changed their narrative, which led to Kathleen's strict imprisonment. A diary was found in Kathleen's possession that was solid evidence pointing towards Kathleen's toxic mindset towards her children. The accounts of that diary were disturbing, as it mentioned sentences like, "With Sarah, all I wanted was to shut up, and one day she finally did." These written records of Kathleen's mood swings showed how much she was annoyed by the existence of her kids. Given her rough childhood and her not being interested in the proper upbringing of her children, this was enough evidence to prove that Kathleen was the murderer of her 4 children. Many psychological tests were also conducted, pointing out the abnormal state of mind Kathleen was in. Her diaries revealed a very tortured mind, but still, it was not enough to actually put her behind bars. She had completed 15 years of imprisonment until now, and many believe that she was wrongly convicted in the murder of her babies when they died natural death. There are contradictions present in this case. A clinical psychologist, Dr. Shamila Betts, examined the diaries carefully and found many accounts of the writing that show that Kathleen never hated her kids. She was just suffering from constant mood swings that every mother suffers due to the constant pressure she faces while being the only caregiver of her 4 children. Kathleen Folbigg's case was based upon Meadows' cot death theory. 1 cot death of an infant is considered as tragedy, 2 cot death suspicion, and 3 are considered as murder. In Kathleen's case, it was 4 of her children in which 3 were infants and died in their cots. Therefore, without any solid evidence against the murder, the court declared her the culprit and sent her behind bars. This theory was accumulated by British professor Roy Meadow, because of which many mothers were sent behind bars in the United Kingdom solemnly on the basis of suspicion. Leading up to this theory, many convicted women walked free and got their justice, as there was no scientific evidence of the deaths of the infants. But back in Australia, the same argument was being used against Kathleen Folbigg. The jury presented this argument that in Kathleen's case, the chances of the death of her 4 children due to natural causes is 1 in a trillion. The court argued that Kathleen smothered her babies in their sleep or poisoned her under mysterious circumstances. To this date, Kathleen's case remains unsolved and in constant dilemmas whether injustice has been done to the innocent mother. Kathleen's last sentence will expire in April 2043, and her non-parole period expires in 2033. In February 2005, the trial again began and arguments were made in favor of Kathleen Folbigg that she might have been convicted under false accusations. The case was not strong enough from its roots, but it did reduce her imprisonment to 30 years and 25 years of parole. This case still remains mysterious to the medical authorities as well as all the clinical psychologists, as they are constantly trying to find out the reason for these deaths since 1999. All 4 children could have died due to natural causes, and Kathleen might have had nothing to do with it. The records of her strange and abnormal childhood are constantly related to her conviction that she witnessed her father murdering his mother. Therefore, it might have been an instinct in her that must have caused the death of her infants. Kathleen's husband Craig also reported on many accounts that she would constantly nag when she had to take care of her children. Reports have also shown that Craig Folbigg had a history of obstructive sleep apnea. Because of that, his 4 kids also suffered from mild sleep apnea or some respiratory problems. The prosecution argued that these diseases were not strong enough to cause the death of those babies. The oldest child survived a total of 18 months. If these diseases were the cause, she would have died early too. The narrative of this case is emerging day by day as several people have different conclusions about the mother who belonged to the Hunter Valley of South Wales, Australia. If Folbigg is freed and is declared innocent, then her ordeal will be seen as the worst miscarriage of justice in the history of Australia. Many petitions get signed daily by the women from different countries who were wrongly convicted in the murder of her children. Several appeals have been made to go through Folbigg's trial, but Reginald Blanche, a former judge, says all evidence points towards Kathleen and there is no way of ease for her as she is the righteous culprit in this case. Cases like these seem as if they are made up or out of a movie scene, but these stories are real and are undeniably horrific. For more such stories, keep visiting her channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you will never miss out on our daily uploads.